There we go.
I heard you've just become a manager. Congrats. After you assign responsibilities to the people you're managing, what will you do next? You could micromanage your team and ensure they do a good job, but they'll probably hate you for it. Or you could be hands-off and let them work with minimal interference. But don't be surprised when you get back work that looks nothing like you expected. If you want high-quality work from your direct reports without micromanaging them, it's helpful to understand what authors Ken Blanchard and Spencer Johnson call the 3 secrets of the new one-minute manager. Understanding and implementing these 3 quick habits will ensure you get great results and ensure that your people actually like working with you. Secret number 1, 1-minute goals. If you don't give your people a clear goal to aim at, you're essentially blindfolding them and telling them to shoot an arrow at a target they can't see. A good manager takes the blindfold off and points at a target, but a great manager takes the blindfold off and lets his or her people pick the target and then adjust their distance from the target, so it feels like a challenging and fun game. In other words, great managers don't tell their people what their goals should be. They help their people set their own goals with the 1-minute goal setting process. Here's what a weekly 1-minute goal setting session might look like. Now note that this will take longer than a minute to complete initially, but once your people get familiar with the process, they will do the work up front, so future goal setting sessions will take just 1 minute of your time. Start by asking, what are you hoping to complete this week? Don't be afraid to stretch yourself. As they think of the different things they could do this week, ask, of those goals, what one could have the largest impact? Remind them of the 80-20 rule. If you have 5 goals, what one goal, if completed, would help the team more than all the other goals combined? As they think out loud and choose their most important goal, ask, can you clarify what exactly you plan to accomplish? Get them to explain the goal in as much detail as possible, and then say, now that you've clarified your most important goal, type out your goal with the steps you plan to take to accomplish your goal. Keep it to less than a page. Then after you've written out your goal, email it to me so I can review it and approve it. By getting your direct reports to write out their goals and share them with you, you force them to clarify their goals and ensure that you and your direct reports are on the same page. And you avoid the situation where you thought they understood what they needed to do, but were mistaken when you get back work that looks nothing like you expected. After a direct report sends you his or her plan, tell them, now print out your goal and keep it in front of you. Then at the end of each day, take a minute to ask yourself, did my actions today get me closer to completing my goal? At this point, your direct report has created a game that will keep him or her engaged and focused. They have a clear target, a time limit, hit the goal by the end of the week, and regular feedback. Having a game makes work more enjoyable, but only if you can play the game. If a direct report lacks the skills required to do a task, it doesn't matter how clear the goal is, they're going to be disengaged. This is where the second secret of the new 1-minute manager comes in. 1-minute praisings. Suppose one of your direct reports needs to use a new software program to complete a task. You give her a self-guided tutorial and tell her to come to you if she has any questions. She doesn't return, so you assume that she's learning rapidly. But later you learn that she was stuck and frustrated, but didn't want to come to you with a stupid question, so she kept spinning her wheels. This is what you should have done. Ask your direct report to share her screen. Then watch her figure out the new software. If you sense that she's nervous, say, don't worry, I'm only watching to catch you doing something right. When you see her starting to understand a new command, turn up the emotion and say something like, nice, you figured out how to use command XYZ. This is going to help you, and then explain a few things she'll be able to do as a result of learning this command. Then pause and give her a chance to feel some pride. Then encourage her to keep learning and try another command. At this point, you've completed a 1-minute praising. First, you've specified what they did right and why it's important. Second, you've paused to let them feel good about it. As detailed in the book Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg, letting a feeling of pride wash over someone rapidly wires in a new behavior. And then third, encourage them to keep learning. These 1-minute praisings should be handed out early and often in a learning phase for any approximate success. Think of it like encouraging a child to walk. Initially, you praise them for standing up and taking a wobbly first step and then falling. You don't hold your praise until the child can sprint across the room like Usain Bolt, No, you praise anything that looks like progress. Praising early and often is the best way to accelerate learning and the fastest way to increase the confidence of your people. At the start of any new task, it's okay to watch your direct reports like a hawk, as long as you're there to deliver 1-minute praisings. Then you must slowly back off the praisings and encourage your people to praise themselves each time they use what they've learned. Once you know a direct report knows how to do their job and hit their goal, but get lazy and miss their goal, it's time for a 1-minute redirect, the third secret of the new 1-minute manager. The authors in the book use the following sports analogy to illustrate the 1-minute redirect. It's the championship game, and a star basketball player is playing terribly. Unless he picks up his game, his team will lose. So the coach takes him off the court and tells the star player exactly what he's doing wrong. You're missing easy shots, you're not grabbing any rebounds, and you're loafing on defense. I'm angry at you because you don't look like you're even trying. Then the coach pauses for a long moment and says, "You're better than that. You need to sit on the bench until you're ready to play the way you're capable of playing." After what seemed like forever, the player stood up, went to the coach, and said, "I'm ready to go in, coach." "Okay, get back in there and show me what you can do," the coach said. When the player went back in, he was all over the court, diving for loose balls, grabbing rebounds, and making his usual shots. Thanks to his effort, the team improved their play, and they won the game. In that short story, the coach delivered a 1-minute redirect by first telling the player exactly what he was doing wrong, then telling the player how he felt about it, and then letting that disappointment and that emotional pain sink in, but then reminding the player he was better than his mistake. This 1-minute redirect sounds simple, but most managers fail to do it correctly. Most managers fail to catch mistakes quickly and point out exactly what someone's doing wrong. In many organizations, managers wait till the annual performance review to tell a direct report what they've done wrong and why they're getting a low rating. And some managers give critical feedback without personal reassurance. By failing to remind someone that they're better than their mistake, they leave that person feeling worthless and unmotivated. As a manager, you must always find a way to say, "You screwed up, but you're not a screw up," or "You did something bad, but you're better than that." In the end, your success as a manager will come down to 3 simple habits, which are known as the 3 secrets of the new 1-minute manager. First, clarify goals with weekly 1-minute goal setting sessions. Second, praise your people early and often in a learning phase with 1-minute praisings. And third, give quick and painful feedback, but then reaffirm your belief in your people by giving 1-minute redirects. When you consistently execute these 3 habits, the people you're managing will learn to clarify their goals, give themselves praise for progress, and correct their mistakes while maintaining their self-esteem. Your job is not to manage your people, but to get your people to manage themselves. As a 1-minute manager in the book says, no person ever really works for anyone else. Deep down, people like to work for themselves. That was the core message that I gathered from the new 1-minute manager.
All right, guys. So, how does this apply to what we're doing? But like I say, as far as managing a team, managing people, really a powerful book, really powerful techniques. So simplistic, so easy to use, but so effective. So, if you do manage people, I strongly encourage you to go ahead and actually get a copy of this book and learn it. It's the type of thing you can learn it very quickly. It takes a while to really master it, but it's not overly difficult at all to actually learn and to begin to implement. But so where are we at? Let's see how this really applies to what we're doing here at OneSource. Because I have to admit, without even totally realizing what I was doing, I came to understand after I created the system, so much of how I created the system comes from this book. Because again, I had been teaching it for a long time. I had been using it in my own businesses. for many, many years before I created OneSource. But step number one, 1 minute goals. So when do we set 1 minute goals? We should be doing it on a regular basis. When we're meeting with our prospects, with our clients, with other members of the team, and we're reviewing dashboards. You should definitely be, what are your goals this week in your relationships? What are your goals this week as far as your level of health and fitness? I know we do it on a monthly basis, and I know we do it on a quarterly basis. But realistically, there'd be no harm, and you should get into the habit of doing it on a weekly basis as well, even if it's just a verbal thing while you're talking to the prospects and your clients. Ask them what their goals are. But if you see the way he recommends, he says that primarily what a poor manager does is he puts a blindfold on an individual, gets them to shoot at the target without even knowing where the target really is. What a good manager does is he removes the blindfold, but then he points to the target and tells them to hit the target. But what a great manager does is he removes the blindfold and allows the individual to select his target. That is the true way that you want to do it. And that is primarily what we do. If you think about it, when we're working with people on the one-to-one basis, we don't ever set the targets for them. We allow them to set their targets. All we do is primarily remove the blindfold, show that, and ask them to hit the target. They decide where they want to stand. They decide how far away they want to be, the approach that they want to take. We encourage them, we support them, but they select the target. So that, again, you've got the tools right now when you're doing one-to-ones. You're not a manager in a business, but you're basically running your own business. When you're meeting with prospects, when you're meeting with your clients, you should be setting goals on a regular basis. You should be setting goals in those key areas, whether it be their relationships, their health, their growth, or their finances. And the 6 parts that I would encourage you to do is when you do a weekly 1-minute goal setting session. Okay, what's he say to do first? Ask them, clear questions. What are you hoping to achieve this week? What are you looking to do here? What are you looking to do there? Ask the questions. But then help them to identify of those goals, which ones would have the greatest impact. So if they tell you primarily they want to do 2, 3 things, 4 things in the area of their health, for an example, ask them which is going to have the greatest impact. Or even if you just want to ask them which is going to have the greatest impact of all the goals that they set that week in all of the areas. Because the concept being is that 80-20 rule. The 80-20 rule, we've talked about it before, but in case you don't recall or if you weren't here, the 80-20 rule is simple. 80% of your results will always come from 20% of your efforts. So whenever you're setting goals, what you want to do is you want to try to really zone in on those 20% that are going to produce 80% of the results. So in this example, individual has 5 goals. Find the one goal in there that is going to produce 80% of the results. It's very common knowledge, the 80-20 rule. It's very effective and it works. So What do you do after you set to use the 80-20 rule? I would encourage you, just like he says here, get them to email you their goals. Again, you don't have to do that constantly, not every week, but you should be identifying the goals on a regular weekly basis. And you should get them, if they have a very complex goal, to actually write out a strategy of how they're going to do it. And I know that's going to be tied into the actions. That's one of the benefits we have of working with people with the dashboard. We don't even always need to get them to write out a clear plan, because we can implement that plan and incorporate the plan directly into the dashboard. But if there is multiple steps involved, if it is a rather large goal that they're going for, get them to write it down. Get them to write down the steps, get them to write down their goals, and get them to email it to you. Then, this is the part that I love. He suggests for the managers to go down and sit down with the people and ask them to evaluate, review, do my actions today, this week, get me closer to completing my goal. That's exactly what we do with the dashboard. When we have goals set out, we're reviewing that dashboard, and they are reviewing the dashboard on a daily basis. So it's really critical that when you set the goals, that again, you get them to evaluate it, and you're going over it with them every single week when you do those one-to-ones, that you're evaluating, are the actions I'm taking, are they getting me closer to completing my goal? Again, in a nutshell, guys, this is very similar. The goal setting that they do right there is very similar, if not identical, to what we do with OneSource. So, how do you do the next step? So the first step being a 1-minute goal. How do you do a 1-minute praising? This is something that's really important in the early stages. When you start working with people, and you've heard me say it before, try to catch them doing something right. Never make the mistake of, when you first start working with somebody, trying to point out the things they're doing wrong. That's not what it's about, any way, shape, or form. The entire concept is try to watch them closely. You've got the ability to watch them remotely through the dashboard. You can see exactly what they're doing right, and you can send them emails, you can send them WhatsApps, you can make a phone call, you can do it in a meeting, but give them 1-minute praisings. You need to do that very frequently at the beginning. So you've been involved with this long enough now. Everybody here has been involved for a while, at least a few months, 2-3 months at this stage. Why do you think that's so important? Think about it for a second. You're getting them to link what? Pleasure. Remember, we talked so much about pain and pleasure. In this particular case, you're getting them to link pleasure to that activity, to that action. And that's going to encourage them. That's going to make it take root. That's going to make the habit stick. And it's going to make it a lot easier for them to do on a consistent basis. So, how does he explain it? Well, first off, he says to make it very clear. Let the people know that you're going to be watching them, but you're only watching them to catch them do something right. Now, that's very true in the workplace. We have the benefit of, they don't really know how closely we're watching them, because we're watching them remotely. We're watching them through the dashboard every single day when they're putting their actions into that, and their scores and their stars. When they're emailing you the stars at the very beginning, you've got the benefit of doing it somewhat remotely. But if you let them know what you're doing, Once you catch them doing something right, like in this example, he's looking at it, one of the people he's managing. You see, you first off you compliment them, but it's really important. It's got to be a sincere, genuine compliment. You can't give false praise to people because they know it's false praise. As my wife says all the time, I don't know, she gets it from her mother maybe. False praise is no praise. You don't want to give out false praise. But if you catch them doing something right, you're reviewing the dashboard. You see that they did very well in a particular area, or maybe they did something 1 or 2 days in a row that they were struggling with before. Give them a genuine compliment. Give them a 1 minute praising. And the way they put it there is you go ahead and you give them a compliment, you give them a praising, but then you go ahead and you explain why it's important. Like he says here, nice. You figure it out that the command XYZ, this is going to help you do what? So if you're reviewing the dashboard with somebody, you notice that they're doing something right, give them a compliment, but then explain why. How is it going to help them? Then, primarily, you pause. If you're doing it in a one-to-one session, the pause is really important. There's a psychological reason for that. But you give the compliment, the praising, you explain why, how it's going to benefit them. You pause for a moment. Now, that pause, when you're doing it on a one-to-one, like when you're doing your weekly one-to-one with an individual, it gives them the sense to feel, the opportunity to feel a sense of pride. That is really important. That makes it stick. That makes it really get embedded to that individual. So you'll remember, if any of you have read the book, I've recommended this book in a couple different sessions, and we've actually done a training on it as well. Tiny Habits. BJ Fogg talks about in the book, Tiny Habits, how important it is that after you do something where you complete a task and you feel good about it, take a moment to pause and and feel that moment of pride. He does that. He says that, and it's the reason it works so well when you're working with people is because it creates the habit much more effectively. So again, give them the praise, explain why, pause for a moment, give them the opportunity to feel that sense of pride, and then give them another quick, some type of encouragement. Well done, great job. You're on your way, type of thing. And again, the only thing I want to really make sure that everybody walks away from with this: never give false praise. Always be looking for something to give genuine praise for. People will spot it. It's no good to them. It's no good to you. Don't give false praise. But when you find something to give praise for, do it right away. Jump on it, especially so much at the beginning. So important. Um, just like it says here, praising early and often when learning. Okay, so at the very beginning, especially in those first 30 days when you're working with people, give it early and often when learning. So, what's the third secret that he talks about? We already talked about 1 minute goal setting. We've already talked about and how that applies to one source. We've already talked about the 1 minute praisings, how it applies to what we're doing in the consulting with one source. What about a 1 minute redirect? Now, I like the word redirect a lot better. Originally, this isn't from the new 1 minute manager. Originally, in the original book that I read all those years ago, it used to be referred to as a 1 minute reprimand. Not crazy about that, definitely. But a 1 minute redirect is really powerful. Now, How do you do a 1 minute redirect? Now, apologies that failure number two shouldn't be showing you. I must have forgot to put a tag on that. So sorry about that. Uh, but if you remember the example with the coach, what did he do? He took him off to the side. You could do it in a session when you're working with somebody. And he explained very specifically what they were doing wrong. In this case, if somebody is telling you that they set a goal that they want to go ahead and they want to lose X amount of weight, but every day when you're looking at the dashboard, you're noticing that they're not doing their exercise, they're eating the wrong foods, they're not getting their walks, and whatever the case may be you want to do it in a professional manner, but you want to be very specific to explain to them what they are doing wrong. But the one thing we want to be careful of, because again, this is more for managers with employees, these people are setting goals for themselves. It's our job to support them, it's our job to primarily work with them and encourage them. But again, we also want to hold them accountable. So that's where the 1 minute redirect comes in, holding somebody accountable. So when you know that they're not doing what the actions that they set, what they set up, if they're not doing them consistently, it's your responsibility to go ahead and hold them accountable. That's what you're there for. That's your role. So you want to make sure that you're doing it in a professional manner, but you can do it in the one-to-one sessions, or if you see it happening during the week, 2, 3 times in a row, you can drop them a quick WhatsApp, or you can drop them a quick email. But be very specific to lay out what they're doing wrong. In this particular case, the coach talks about how you're missing the easy shots, you're not grabbing any rebounds, whatever the case. You would talk about what they're doing in the system. They're not getting their walks in, they're not drinking enough water, they're not doing X, Y, and Z on their dashboard. Then the next step is so the first step is to make it very clear. Now, in this particular example, again, it's only the coach. We're never going to do this. We're never going to say, "I'm angry at you because." But you could say to them, what you're doing wrong is you're not going for your walk. You're not doing X. You're not doing Y. And then you can point out to them that, look, you're the one that set this goal. It's my responsibility to hold you accountable, and you're not doing what you agreed you were going to do. But you can also then draw it back and you can say, look, maybe we need to revisit this, or if you're really serious, you need to go ahead and get serious about the actions you're taking. But then the third step in the process is the most critical. You have to separate their action from the person. So you always have to reinforce it by letting them know, look, you're better than this. I know you can do this. You've done it before. You've explained to me how important it is to you. I'm confident you can do this. Again, you're better than this, whatever words you want to use, but explain to them exactly the behavior that what they're not doing, or how they're basically letting themselves down. Express to them how you feel about it and why, but then reinforcement. Reinforce the person, your belief, support that individual. But he goes on to talk about the two critical failures that managers, in this case consultants, make when implementing a 1 minute redirect. The first one, they don't give immediate feedback. You cannot let it go too long. It's your responsibility as a consultant that when you're working with somebody, that you make sure that you're looking at that dashboard on a regular basis. Again, at the beginning so critical that you're always making sure you're on top of that dashboard. It's a powerful tool. Use it to your advantage. Use it to support the individuals. But you need to give immediate feedback. And number two, they give critical feedback, but they don't give the personal reassurance. They don't do that third step. So they're just telling the person what they did wrong, and they're talking about how they're disappointed or how it's affecting them, but they never do that third step. So you have to make sure you do it in that proper order. You give immediate feedback, but you have to do those three things. Step one, again, let them know exactly what they're doing wrong. Step two, let them know why it's making you feel, why you're bringing it to their attention. But then again, that personal reassurance that you believe in them, that you know they can do it. Support that individual. So, the 3 habits of successful managers. The 3 habits of successful managers, we could easily scratch that off and say the 3 habits of successful consultants. Number 1, when you're working with an individual, set goals. You have the dashboard. We're going to get into the dashboard in a moment, but you have the dashboard, a powerful tool, a powerful goal setting tool. Use it. Set goals as much as you can. Definitely set them once a month, once a quarter, but you really should be setting those goals on a weekly basis. And definitely in every session, you should be reviewing those goals. So critical. Give 1-minute praisings. Catch them doing something right. Again, more at the beginning. Make sure that you really try to catch them doing something right. But you can still always do it as you progress. You don't want to, what you want them to do is get to the point where they're giving themselves 1-minute praisings. And when I talk about giving themselves, I've said this to you before. It's so important when you're reviewing your own dashboard that when you do something right, when you have a good day, when you're putting in those quarter points, that you take a moment to reflect. You take a moment to reflect and feel good about it. Give yourself a 1-minute praising. Let yourself know that, hey, this was great. I did something really good here. I feel good about that. Again, remember BJ Fogg. Take time to go ahead and feel good about what you've done. Then the third step, the 1-minute redirects. And again, you have to do it in the proper format, guys. Explain exactly what they're doing incorrectly. Explain how it affects them and how it affects you, why you're bringing it to their attention. But then that positive reinforcement. You believe in that individual. If you do this consistently, I guarantee you will connect with the people. You will be much more effective as a consultant, and you will produce much higher results with the individuals you're working with. So, if you're going to do it right. What am I talking about when I say if you're going to do it right? Well, in this particular case, I'm talking about specifically about working with somebody doing a session using the dashboard. Again, that dashboard is so powerful, guys. It should be your best friend in this business. If you think about it, life coaches don't have it. Psychotherapists don't have it. Nobody else to the level that we do have a tool like this at their disposal, where they can go ahead and they can spot, from a different country if they need to, how well somebody's doing at any given time, how balanced they are, how they did the day before, how they did the week's average, how are they doing for the month, how they're doing for the year if they want to. It's a powerful tool, but it makes it so easy when you're doing a one-to-one with somebody. Typically with life coaching, counseling, any of the other professions, and again, I'm not knocking any of them. There's some great ones out there, and there's some great life coaches and great psychotherapists and great you know counselors and everything else. Therapists. I'm not knocking any of them, but when you're doing a session, especially, well, you should. Oh, I still use it all the time, and this is how I do a session. I go area by area. It's your way. It's like a checklist that primarily when you're conducting a one-to-one, you should be doing it in reading off that dashboard, area by area. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to stop the share for just a moment. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pull up a test dashboard. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you, in case you're not familiar, how I do and how I encourage everyone to go ahead and to do a one-to-one. So where am I at? There we go. I'm going to reshare the screen. Test bad dashboard. Here we go. So, okay, hopefully everybody can see that. So, okay, this is just a test dashboard. These are all just numbers that I use for demonstration purposes. So, how do you do a proper one-to-one with somebody? Well, first off, I always go area by area. And I always do it first off in 7 days. What I do is I look at, well, in this case, obviously that's not right, but I would do it based on the previous week's 7 days you're reviewing, because again, you're meeting with the individuals every single week. So every single week, this gives you an opportunity to do this, the previous 7 days in the relationships. And what I would do in this case, let's just stick with the green to make it easy. I would look at these 7 days and I would say right away, okay, the first area I know is that individual's himself. How do I know that? In case you guys don't understand that, you see that little black box in the center, that a little arrow? That's just a note. I would always encourage you when you have your dashboard, when you're working with clients, that you go ahead and you insert notes in all those 1, 2, 3, and 4s, so you know as you're working through it with them. See, when I hover over it, it shows it exactly what you're talking about. So in this case, I would go in there and I would be like, okay, so your relationship with yourself. Okay, well, no, you had a good week. No, I mean, you got it 5 days out of 7. That's great. Wonderful. But I do notice that on Sunday and Tuesday, well, you didn't get it, and that's okay. We're not looking for perfection, guys. I never beat somebody up for something like that. You don't want to always see all the time they're getting every point every time, because chances are, if you see that too often, possibly they're not being maybe as strong to with their scoring as they should be. But I always ask them, is there anything you want to discuss? Anything? You always put it in their hands. Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything that happened? And you never press. Again, this is non-directive. You're not there to make them open up and share things with you. That's not what this is about. But you want to give them the opportunity, if they need some support, if they want to talk about something, this is the place to do it. So I would look at those 2 days and I would say, okay, you did great, but these 2 days, you didn't get it, and that's okay. No big thing. We're not looking for perfection. You still got it 5 days out of 7. Well done. But is there anything you want to talk about? No? Okay. Then I go on to the next one. Next one is with the partner. Hey, you had a great week with your partner. Well done. That's fantastic. I'm so happy to see that you guys are getting on well and, life is good and whatever the case may be. But what am I doing? I'm using this as a checklist. I'm going area by area, uh, subcategory by subcategory. It gives me something to focus on. I can zone in on it. I can support them in a very positive way. But it's not like a typical session where I'm just asking them, so how do you feel? What kind of week did you have? Type of thing. No, we're getting very specific based on the data, the information that they provided. That's what makes this so powerful. But I would go ahead and I would do it all the way down, area by area. Okay, the kids, great, fantastic. Hey, great week with the kids. Your creator, okay, I see you missed it on Saturday. Okay, look, you probably had a lot going on. Is there everything okay? I'm glad. But then I always try to find something positive. When I see something like this, I say, okay, you missed it on this day, but no, the great news is you got right back on track. See that? The next few days in a row, you got it. Next 4 days in a row. That's fantastic. Well done. Again, that's genuine praise because I mean that sincerely. I'm not giving false praise. I do think it's great when somebody hits a speed bump and they don't get it for a day. No big deal. But I always encourage them when they did something right, they got right back on track. They didn't let that throw them off. They didn't, have one bad day turn into 2 bad days, turn into a bad week, turn into a bad month. They got right back on track. But again, that's how I would encourage you all to do it. Area by area, subcategory by subcategory. Make sure that you put those notes in case you don't know how to put a note in. Very simple. All you're going to do is right click. You're going to right click. You're going to scroll down, insert note. Okay, insert note. You can write whatever you want in there. Okay, so hopefully, and if you need any help, drop me a message. For guys, and I'm assuming everybody knows this, but all this is Google Docs in Google Drive that's shared. There's like 10 million videos on YouTube of how to use this. You all have the ability to go in and edit. Just be careful that you're not messing with formulas and that. And if you do, it's not the end of the world. I can go in and fix it for you. But that's the only thing I would encourage you to be careful of. But to insert notes or to make minor changes, not an issue at all. Simple things like putting in, little smiley faces or whatever. I know some people get very creative and they put all kinds of little pictures and things like that, depending to how, what type of day that it was. That's great stuff, all of it. But again, I would go area by area, but then I'd zone in on something like this. Okay, that's a minus 2 days in a row. So okay, they didn't. They on this day right here. What happened on this on Friday? On Friday with the health. Okay, that's the area of their diet. They didn't get the quarter point, but then the next day they got a minus. That means they went a little bit crazy. A minus again. So again, instead of just focusing on the negative, I'd say, okay, well, look, you got off to a bit of a slow start. You had a bit of a situation there, but that's okay. The nice thing is, good for you. You got right back on track. I'd really like to see that. Is there anything you want to talk about? Anything that happened in those days? Anything I can do to support you? Again, really powerful, guys. And again, if they want to share, they will. And if they don't, they'll just say, no, it's okay. I got back on track. Something happened or, whatever the case may be. But that's how you use the dashboard. It's a powerful tool to use. And I know everybody here knows it at this stage, but it's one thing to know it. It's not always the case to use it. But what I look for too when supporting people and where I really try to give a 1 minute redirect is when I see things like this 0000. What's going on there? Okay, now it's time maybe to address the situation. 1 day is fine. 2 days, okay, it happens. Not the end of the world. When it starts getting to be where you could just see a lot more zeros, Well, then maybe it's time to do a 1 minute redirect. Okay, look, I notice you're telling me that, you want to get the finances in order, and I can't help to notice you just keep, you're not sticking to your budget, whatever it is, whatever that would be. You're not sticking to your budget in here, 5 days in a row. Now, look, I get it, maybe you're struggling or whatever, but you're the one who told me you wanted to go ahead and achieve this goal this month. Okay. If you want to go ahead and maybe we can make an adjustment, that's fine, but it's your call. But you're the one who said you're going to do it, and you know that you're not going to hit it based on what you're doing here. But look, I know you can do it. You've done it before. There's still time left in the month. You're capable of doing this. That's how you give a quick redirect on some. But that's what you're going to zone in on when you see zeros like that on the dashboard. Okay? So, and I'm just conscious of time here, but the goals, these goals you should be focused on these goals every single week. If you're not setting new goals, you're definitely reviewing them. After you go through all the areas and all the subcategories, you're going to say to them, okay, well, let's see how you're doing for the month. Let's take a look at the goals. Okay, so you said that primarily you wanted to come in at a 0.75 in the area of your relationships. Fantastic. Look at you've got a nice buffer there. Good for you. Well done. That's fantastic. You're at a 0.81. That's phenomenal. Well done. Same thing with the health. You said you wanted to hit a goal of 0.7. Great job. Keep going. You just keep doing exactly what you're doing. You'll hit that target. You'll surpass it. Same thing here. You got a little bit of a buffer. The one I'm a little bit concerned about is right here. Finances. You set a goal of a 0.68. I'm sorry, you set a goal of a 0.75. You're only at a 0.68. Look, I understand things happen, but you and I both know it's important to you. So, what's going on here? And do we need to make an adjustment? We both know you're capable of hitting that. There's still time left. You can get back on track, but you got to get serious. You can do this type of thing. But again, that's the importance of using the goals section, setting goals on a regular basis with the people you're working with and with yourself, reviewing it consistently and adjusting it consistently. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. And hopefully everybody's doing that, because again, that's how this system is designed to be done. Now, and even if you want also too, when you're setting the goals, I hope everybody's using the standard chart. You have a standard chart in there that you should be looking at, you should get very comfortable with, and you should make sure that this standard chart matches up with your standards. So in other words, the key area average. If I know that the key area would be, say, relationships, they're currently at a 0.81. There's a 0.81, if you look on here, that means great. So you tell me, do you really feel you're having a great month? Chances are they will. And if need be, make adjustments. But again, they should align up with the individual based on their own individual standard. And if it's not matching up, well, maybe they need to make it harder to get that point. Maybe they're making it too easy. That's why the score isn't aligning up. Or the opposite. Maybe they're being too hard on themselves, where they're not achieving the points. But regardless, that's how you go ahead and you make the adjustments, all based on these standard charts right here. And then you have the overall average. Again, this individual right now is a 3.02. What is that? Really good. You're having a really good month. Good for you. Fantastic. Ask them, do you feel as if, does that line up with how you're feeling? Do you feel as if it's a really good month for you? If they do, wonderful. If not, maybe it's time to make some adjustments. Maybe it's too easy or maybe it's too hard, but make those adjustments until this does line up. So hopefully that makes sense. And one more thing I'm going to show you really quick, and this is optional, but adding things. You guys can add to these. Like on this case, I just show examples where if somebody is trying to track their sleep, they can see every day how much sleep they're getting, what their calorie count is, how much they're actually spending, whatever the case may be. You can add whatever you want on here, whatever you want to track. I have some people that use it as a journal, that what they'll do is at the end of every day, they'll go ahead and they'll insert a note in here. You could do it there, or if you really want to do it different, you can go in here and you can go right to the day, like on the first, right click, scroll down, insert a note, and today was today was a great day because, and they can put blah 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 blah, whatever they want to put in there. That way, it's a journal that they can go back, and if they want to see where they were this time last year, where they were this time last month. Oh, I remember this day. Yeah, it was a great day because this happened, type of thing. And you could see it was a great day because my scores reflect on it, whatever the case may be. But hopefully that all makes sense to you guys. It's a powerful tool, and I really, really, really encourage you guys to use it to the full ability that it's there for. So look, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to wrap it up. Apologies about the technical problems at the beginning. I'll have to go back and edit that out. But look, as always, questions, comments, concerns, feel free, reach out. I'll be available for the next half hour or so. Other than that, guys, thanks very much. Always appreciate you coming and look forward to seeing you next week. All right. If you need me, I'm here for you. Reach out.